So search funders are typically, we're making a generality here, but they're guys that have had white collar executive level careers that have generated, a decent net worth, and they're out looking to own their own business. So there's a lot of people like you that are making that move, leaving corporate to own their own business.
And what's interesting, Matt, I see it now. So when I was in my 20s, you would hear about people that are older getting laid off. Well, now that I'm older, I'm seeing that even in those corporate jobs. And it's crazy to see, but I see a lot of my friends going, hey, Jeff, can you help me buy this next business? I'm glad to look at the financials for them, but I absolutely agree with you.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
I need you to hit me with some hard-hitting questions, though. Make it interesting. Don't be afraid.
Can we make you cry?
you can make me cry.
Casey, you said you did that yesterday.
Yeah.
He interviewed somebody yesterday,
or 2 days ago.
So Casey runs a marketing company, primarily video. So any of the videos, if you've seen any of the stuff we put out for our company, Casey's firm does all that. But so he does a lot of interviewing people. He said he made somebody cry yesterday.
Yeah, it was a nonprofit. But anyway, yeah. Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Voelker. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Matthew Nix. And today we're doing our first virtual Making Sparks episode. And Matthew brought on the guest, so I'm going to let him intro.
I was going to tease you about you being the host and me being the co-host, but I kind of like it that way. So yeah. I'll just roll with that.
It's okay.
I just show up. The host is the one that has to make it happen.
And I'm now a professional speaker, since last night.
As of last night, Casey's a professional speaker now. I saw him get up in front of a big room full of people, and he knocked it out of the park. No, it was good. Well, I've got Jeff Matuszak with us here today, and Jeff is from North Carolina. So I'm going to kick it over to him, and I would normally talk about how we met, but I think that's kind of part of what he's going to talk about here today, one of the talking points. So I'm gonna leave it with you, Jeff. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Casey, Matthew. I really appreciate it, guys. Like listening to your podcasts. I like listening to when I listen to your podcast. I like how you guys really focus in on the industry, and I'm just happy to be here. So this is like my second podcast ever. So bear with me. I'm probably a little nervous, and I'll talk too much, and I won't ask too much questions, but I'm going to try to do this as best I can.
It's all good.
So Matt, I know the first thing that you wanted me to talk about was my background. So quick family background. I've been married over 20 years to my wife, Susan. I have a 22-year-old son, Colin. Colin just graduated from the University of South Carolina about a year ago. Go Cox. I went to South Carolina as well. And he's got a job, so we're all really excited.
Yeah.
He's moving out.
He's off your payroll.
I'm proud of him, and so we did what we were supposed to do as parents. So my wife and I are very excited about that. What I'm also excited about is when he was in college, he worked for me. He was probably one of my hardest working employees. So the fabrication side of the business really taught him what hard work was, and hard work for him was blasting rust off of steel, right? I put him in my sandblasting tent. He ground a lot of welds. So I appreciate the industry. I appreciate what the industry has done for him to give him that hardworking attitude or mentality as well.
Yeah.
So in regards to my background, as I mentioned, I'm a South Carolina grad. I started with a company called International Paper. Started out in Memphis, corporate credit, really boring. Just did credit lines to everybody. And about a year and a half into it, they offered me the controller position in Joplin, Missouri. And Joplin, Missouri, as many of you don't know,
I've drove through Joplin, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. So I was there, early 2000s, and I was the youngest controller at International Paper. And I thought, what an honor to be the youngest controller. And then I realized I was making telephone poles. And it was not an honor. It was just nobody else wanted to take the job.
Yeah.
And I took it. So after that, I loved being I was a finance guy by trade. I loved what I did at Joplin. I jumped down to a mill down in McDavid, Florida, which is outside of Pensacola. I was running one of the largest lumber mills in the Southeast for international paper. And it was great. I realized then I never wanted to go back to corporate. I met my wife, and in 2005, I moved to North Carolina for a private equity company called Atlas Holdings. And it was such a great honor to work for Atlas. They were a great company to work for. And I started out as a financial controller, did that for a number of years, worked my way into a plant manager role, then worked my way into the vice president role, where I was running 2 plywood mills. We had, I think, at one point we had 600 employees before the 2008 recession happened. And in 2012, we sold those 2 mills to another company called Boise Cascade. And I enjoyed my time with the PE firm. So I did about a year going back and forth with Boise, and I realized, I'm not a corporate guy again. So I jumped into, called Atlas, and Atlas offered me a carve-out situation where I became the chief operating officer for a company called Merchants Metals. And it was over a $300 million revenue company, and it was great. I was chief operating officer, 37 distribution yards, 5 manufacturing locations. It was wonderful. I flew out every other week, and I started noticing my flights. I started noticing I was flying 120 times a year. And I don't know about you guys, but especially this last weekend with Delta, it was tough, right? It was always tough, always something going on. And after that, I was there. I enjoyed being the COO. They moved me down to another plywood mill that they built down in Louisville, Mississippi. And I did it. And what I noticed was I kept flying, right? Like every week I'd fly out on a Monday. I'd fly home either on a Thursday night or a Friday. And I missed a lot of my son's high school years. I did. I mean, it's unfortunate. And my last year when I was with Atlas, I flew 168 times. And I realized then, it was in January of 2019, my dog, unfortunately, was dying. My son was going to college that next semester. And my wife said, you got to focus in on something else. So that's when I decided I'm going to buy a business myself. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And I went to the bank and I called the brokers and I said, this is what I want to do. And nobody called me back. And why? Because I never owned a business before. And I realized really quick, they won't talk to you unless you own a business. And I know all you small business owners out there, or want to be entrepreneurs out there, you have to get some experience.
Hey guys, Casey with Making Sparks. I'm sitting here with Adam Schmidt from ProFab Alliance. Adam, I was looking at the ProFab Alliance website and I keep seeing these 3 points: community, consulting, and franchising. And I just wanted to ask you, what does all that mean?
It's essentially our platform. It's how we break it down, and that's our services that we offer to our members. Starting out with that community, built around kind of the peer group model, but it goes farther than that. Work sharing, and then eventually cooperative benefits and cooperative purchasing, and would love to have an annual event someday for people to really come and experience ProFab in its fullest. And then the consulting piece, there's also 3 main offerings of that. So it starts off with the strategic planning and coaching. We have the one-on-one fractional leadership and support, all built upon the final one, which is our management systems and toolkits. The final pillar, that 3rd pillar, is our franchising. It's our newest offering, something that you're able to take everything and bundle it up into one. So you're basically getting everything. That's going to be powered by Nix Industrial. Excited for the opportunity for, new franchisees to come on board.
Well, there is a trend, Jeff, around what you just described, and I actually heard the term for it for the first time a couple of weeks ago. They call it search funders, and that's like they've kind of created this genre, if you will, but search funders, and this was a broker in this like middle market small business world. So search funders are typically, we're making a generality here, but they're guys that have had white collar executive level careers that have generated, a decent net worth, and they're out looking to own their own business. I mean, it's exactly what you just described. So there's like a pretty big movement around that right now. So there's a lot of people like you that are making that move, leaving corporate to own their own business.
And what's interesting, Matt, I see it now. Like, so when I was in my 20s, you would hear about people that are older getting laid off. Well, now that I'm older, I'm seeing that even in those corporate jobs, the guys that are in their late 40s, early 50s are getting laid off, and they're looking around going, they can't find that next job. So they go out and they actually go and find and buy a business. And it's crazy to see, but I see a lot of my friends going, hey, Jeff, can you help me buy this next business? I'm glad to look at the financials for them, but I absolutely agree with you. I think the search funder's an appropriate word, but I also learned a word from Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban used a word, he called it Wantrepreneur. Those are people that want to be an entrepreneur, but never become an entrepreneur. They want to talk about it every day. They want to say how great it must be to be a small business owner, and they still decide that they're going to go back to their 9-to-5 job. Yeah. And when Mark Cuban mentioned that, I can't remember if it was a podcast or a book. I was like, there are so many people out there that don't want to take that leap. I encourage everybody to take that leap because it worked out. And what was great about it, Matt, is I literally bought Carolina Metals, which is unheard of, in 4 months. I met the broker, I bought the business, I did the SBA route, put the house up as collateral, did the SBA note. It was the easiest business I could possibly buy. And I go, man, everybody should be doing this.
Yeah.
And then I tried to buy another business, and we were closing on it in 2020. On December 28th, on December 14th, the owner pulled out of the business and said, no, we're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, we put 3 LOIs out. Nothing got taken. And now finally in December 2021, we bought. I did get a partner for this one. We bought another company called Cape Point Baits. It's a large bait distribution company that runs frozen trucks up and down the East Coast from Georgia all the way up to Delaware. So if anyone likes to fish out on the coast, you're going to hopefully use our bait or ask for our bait, please.
That's super cool. We were just in Florida, and my brother and my 2 sons, we went out. We were fishing in the bay. We were out of Port St. Joe, Florida, and which is, for anybody that doesn't know where that is because it's pretty small, it's just east of Panama. And we went out fishing in the, what is it called? The
Apalachicola.
Apalachicola. There you go. Yeah, that's a mouthful for us Midwesterners. Apalachicola Bay. But it was great. But my point is, he would pull the bag out of the cooler, and we had the shrimp and the little fish in it that we fished with. So that's what your company does.
It does. We do that all along the East Coast. And we get a lot of our bait from obviously Florida, and we get a lot of our bait from North Carolina, South Carolina as well. And then just recently, I purchased another company called United Floor Coatings, which we do garage door floor coatings for garages, commercial and industrial warehouses. So we put the flake on it, we do the top coat, and that's been a really nice business for us as well. So we try to get into a lot of different businesses. I enjoy meeting a lot of different people, and frankly, we've been very fortunate to have really a lot of wins in us. Unfortunately, you have a lot of losses. Right? Being a small business owner, you have your ups and downs, as you know, Matt. And especially what I realized in the fabrication world, you have some really highs, and man, do you have some really lows.
Yeah, we were just talking before we started here. You and I both had record years last year, and I don't know about you, but we're doing okay. We're paying our bills, but that's about it right now. It's like people have no idea the roller coaster ride it is. You go from being on top of the world and look how much money's in the bank, and to that payroll just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. So
that's right. Now, my wife, God bless her, always says, because I'll show her, I'll be like, look, I just got this huge check. She goes, so when does that check run out? I'm like, all right, we have like 2 weeks. We're going to buy steel for the next job.
Yeah, we have to have those people in our life.
My wife always says, when do we see that money? When I tell her, hey, we just landed a big job, she goes, when are we going to see that? I go, oh, well, we won't see it, but it was cool that we landed it.
That's right. We're paying bank notes. We're paying everything. It's a really cool job, and I'll tell everybody the way I built my network. It came out of a network that wasn't fabrication, right? Like we didn't have fabrication. So in the private equity side, so what I did is I jumped on LinkedIn, and that's really where I met Matt. I just started posting. I post every Friday, unless we're under some NDA, which we are right now. I post every Friday called Cool Pick Friday. And it's really, what's cool is other people are like, hey, Jeff, that's a really cool project. When did you do it? And I'm not using it as a sales technique. I just like to meet other people.
Yeah,
And
people
it's
think that LinkedIn
relationships.
has to be some complicated thing, and you just do a cool pick Friday, but you do it with consistency and authenticity. And
Well, and
I think one of the things I noticed, I somehow, I think LinkedIn algorithms, like all of them, just feed you certain things. So I'm sure at some point Jeff just popped up in my feed because we're in the same industry. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw it a few times. If I would only saw it once, it probably would have never resonated. But because he has consistency, I saw him over and over again. And then I noticed he installed a new machine, a new Vortman beamline. And we've been considering getting a Vortman beamline. So it's like, boom, I reached out to Jeff. Hey, how do you like that new beamline? He's in North Carolina. We're not competing against each other. He was very open, sharing about it, asked what kind of volume he puts through it and so forth. And then here you go. So we have a relationship now.
I think both of you mentioned like a big knowledge nugget there where Jeff said, I'm not trying to sell on LinkedIn. And I think a lot of people think when they use LinkedIn, I'm a huge advocate of LinkedIn, but I like LinkedIn because it's a social platform for people that want to talk about business. When I go golfing with someone, some of those guys don't want to talk business with me, and I get kind of annoyed because I'm like, I thought that's what you're supposed to do when you go golfing. And so, so LinkedIn is like my outlet to, sometimes you play the game, you have a little fun, and you post like, when I posted about last night, I posted, that I was nervous and stuff, and I knew what I was doing when I posted that, but I was also being very honest, and I try to be pretty honest on LinkedIn. But I think people don't realize like it's not just a place, there are a lot of people who try to sell you on LinkedIn, but if you use it as a place to literally network virtually, that's really, if you use it that way, share what you're doing, that's cool. Talk to people, be like Matthew, reach out and say, hey, how do you like that? I don't think you'll probably want to hop on any other social media platform, really. I mean, it does a lot for you. So,
And I've met a couple of my mentors in the fabrication side. Presidents of large fabrication companies, I DM'd them. I'm like, I do not want to sell you. This is not a sales call. I just want you to take you to breakfast. Is that okay? Yeah. And some of them are like, yeah, let's go to breakfast. I'll be like, all right, I'll meet you in Baltimore. I'll meet you in Raleigh, or I'll meet you in Richmond. Yeah. And it's been great. Like, I really think the reason we've been successful at Carolina Metals is because I know what people are like. You kind of understand where the industry's going. And I know one of the questions is like, hey, where's the industry going? The industry's going to automation. Why? Because all the big guys are going to automation, right? So why wouldn't you look at automation, and why wouldn't you talk at people and go, what are y'all doing? And it's been, LinkedIn has been great. Now, LinkedIn has gotten me in trouble because we were building this piece of equipment for a very good customer of ours. And every week it looked like a rocket ship. So I would joke around. I was like, oh, we're building something for SpaceX. And, because it was like a 40-foot, I can't say what it was, but it was very large. It looked like a spaceship. And my customer called me and said, hey, Jeff, I'm coming to your shop. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I knew something was wrong. And he sat down. And I go, what's going on, Matt? He goes, you got to take it down. And at that point, I'm like just deleting. And I go, what happened? He goes, not. It wasn't the one manager. Another manager from the same company saw that post and was like, people can tell and people can see, what we're doing. Take it completely down. And what I realized really quick in my small time, or now 5 years, is you take it down right away. Or sometimes I'll just, if it looks really cool, I won't post it. I may shoot it to the customer, do a quick text, and say, hey, are you cool if I post this? And they're like, yep. And that's what we do.
Yeah, we don't do a good enough job as an organization of sharing the cool projects that we're doing. I think that's something we could learn from you, Jeff, and that I got to continue to kind of. I used to do all that myself, like you. Now we have some folks that do that, and you lose some of that because you and I know what is cool and what looks cool. Right? And so what Casey and I just talked about this the other day. Once the business grows to the point where you have folks that are doing that. Now, he and I have really shifted to our personal social media brand and network. And so I find myself posting more of that stuff on my own page. And I've really separated my personal brand and posting from the business. Like, for example, and this is another great example of why it doesn't mean you're selling, but it ultimately leads to sales. I post things like yesterday, my 10-year-old son wanted to learn to weld this summer. So we went in the shop. We had a great time doing that. And actually had one of our welder fabricators like take my iPhone and snap a couple pictures of us, mainly for keepsakes for us. But I was like, I knew it was going to be a good post. I knew it was going to get good traction. And I put it out there. And those kinds of things lead to things like this where because of other posts like that, there's a great customer of ours that's closing down, and the GM of that customer sent me a direct message and said, hey, you probably heard we're closing down. He was like, I've been following you. I have no interaction with this customer, by the way. Like his purchasing people and my team work, like he and I have never interacted. He's like, hey, I've been following you on social media. I love your brand. I love what you guys do and what you stand for. Our place is shutting down. Like me and my team need a place to come to work. And I had the opportunity to pick up 4 or 5 very talented folks. We're working through that right now. Maybe we can make it work. Maybe we can't. But imagine the impact just from a guy following me on LinkedIn and thinking, where would me and my team want to land? They're closing our plant down, you know? And so that's an example. You're not really selling. You're just building a brand and a recognition that can lead to things like that.
I always laugh though, Matt, when I meet people, like we do like, the typical, we sponsor the golf tournaments, and I don't golf. So like I'm the beer tent guy. I give out beers.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with
and
that.
People are like, they're like, Jeff, we love your posts. We love your posts. And I'm like, why don't you just hit like? Just let me know that you like my posts. You know, like,
Well, they call
That
it-
is
hit the
funny.
button.
It's funny how many people I've come to realize that how many people are following along and appreciate it that will never engage with it.
Yeah, there's a term for it.
Right.
There's like it's like passive engagement or something like that, but it's true. Like if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever, like any social media guru, they will say that. They're like, don't be surprised. You have to be consistent because the people that are following will engage with you, but they'll be more direct. They'll reach out to you, or they'll see you in person and say, I get that all the
It's
time.
been
with that
executives too. Hell, the
Oh.
CEO of the largest bank in Evansville said that to me one time. Like taken back. He was like, I love your
I
post
think I
on
know who
LinkedIn.
you're talking about. And
I'm like,
I always
holy-
get excited when he views my profile. I'm
Like,
like,
holy
hey, that
cow.
guy's viewing my profile.
Yeah, it is. I encourage everybody to do LinkedIn. It's definitely the way to go.
How big is your manufacturing company, Jeff?
Yeah, so we're Carolina Mills. We're 16,000 square feet under a roof. So we run anywhere. We ebb and flow with our employees. So we do anywhere from like 20 to 25 employees.
Do you encourage them to like take some photos of project and send them to you, obviously, or do you guys have to like kind of keep that
We keep
contained?
it real tight. Yeah.
Okay.
So my project manager supervisor, JT, who's one of our leaders in our organization, he typically goes out and takes the pictures now, and will send them to me and say, hey, look at this or look at that. If you start like, everybody knows, you always try to ban phones from inside the shop, but you can never ban phones from inside your shop. And then I don't want to walk up to my employee who should be welding, who's taking pictures, and going, well, Jeff, I'm just taking pictures.
Yeah.
Where you're not taking pictures, you're on the phone. So we try to discourage any type of phones.
that
inside the
phone
shop.
thing's a slippery slope. We could do a whole damn podcast episode around that. We have our time clock system has mobile app and there are all kind of things, but we've actually gone to the point now where we have given everybody in the shop an iPad, a company issued iPad, and for a couple of reasons. I mean, obviously an iPad's a lot better to look at prints than your phone, and it's easier to go into your app and things. But another benefit is what Jeff just said. I mean, it's like you don't need your phone. You have a company issued iPad to handle all this stuff.
reason
But that's a whole nother.
I was gonna say the reason I
rabbit
even
hole.
brought that up was like what you were mentioning, like having like struggling to continue to share like the cool projects and stuff. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, oh, you probably want to empower your team members to take pride in what they're doing and take the photos. And I know some of the Knicks guys,
We do
in the
that. We
field
share it
that.
internally though.
But you share it internally.
We have an
and you-
internal
and you have-
social media.
Exactly. Then you have someone like a marketing director, or even if it needs to be like the owner of the company, will be the filter on whether or not you can use that and use it for social media. But that I was just thinking like that's one way to obviously if you, Jeff, can't be out there, but you, like you were saying, your
Right.
project manager or that's fine. I think that's a good way to filter it out. But it sounds like you're doing some stuff that obviously maybe doesn't need to accidentally end up on someone's phone that goes out to someone else. And I get that. Yeah.
So let's dive into a couple other topics
What about
here.
my dad joke?
Oh yeah, that's right. We did miss the dad joke.
I'm interrupting you to.
No, that's fine. I was thinking about it when Jeff was talking about his 22-year-old son about the dad joke then. What do you got for us today?
This is a good one. All right, Jeff. What do you call a rabbit with fleas?
What do you call a rabbit with fleas?
Bugs Bunny.
I like it.
I hope I get claps on that one.
Yeah, I think that one deserves a decent clap.
Back to our regular scheduled podcast.
Yeah, back to the podcast. So, yeah, Jeff, one of the things I've noticed is, first of all, you've only been in the fab industry 5 years. You came from the investment. You're a finance guy by trade and came from private equity world. You jumped in. You embraced technology, automation, pretty significant investment early on. In fact, I mentioned earlier that's what connected us so our shop, our structural shop, I know this because you and I have talked about it. I mean, we're running many times more volume in our shop, and I haven't made that investment yet. I probably should have. I'm probably on the wrong side of this deal, but I've been reluctant. I think partially because we have an older beam line. I think you were going from zero to a beam line, right? But I think it's awesome that you've embraced that, and maybe talk about from a finance guy background how you sort of rectified that or came to peace with. I mean, it was probably close to $1 million investment.
It was up there. It was definitely up there. And so in 2019, when I bought in July of 29, so I'm coming on my 5 years. I went to the FabTech show in Chicago, and I was like, man, look at all this really cool machinery. And everyone's like, well, we can get you in at this price point. We can get you in. And Voortman had just put out that 807, right? I think I have like the number 7. I think I'm serial number 7. And I said, you know what? 2020 is going to be the year of Carolina Metals. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm doubling down. I just took a loan out for the business, but I am doubling down because 2020 is going to be the greatest year Carolina Metals has. And Matt, not only did I buy Voortman, I bought the Dragon, Bentech Dragon, right? Yeah. So I am like all in on miscellaneous because one side of my shop's miscellaneous, all in on the structure with the Voortman. And I was like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this right. And needless to say, everybody knows what happened in 2020. The way, though, I looked at it is every time I walked into my shop, and again, my plants were always over an acre big, 100, 150 people always worked in one of my manufacturing locations. I could go and I could walk around and not bother the same person. And what I realized is when you walk into a fabrication shop, you literally see the same beam that could be sitting there for like 6 hours. Yeah. They're coping on it, they're doing everything. And so for me, I was like, this just doesn't make sense. So that's why I jumped into the Voortman. So when I looked at it, I looked at what I'd have to put down as my down payment. Back then, interest rates were really cheap. They're nothing like they are today. I think my interest rate, I focus with, they're not even around anymore. It's now called the Commercial Equipment Group, CEG, I believe is what the new name is. It used to be called Manufacturing Capital. The rates were cheap. They gave me a 7-year note. I think I was paying like $10,000 or $12,000 a month. And I said, what am I paying one of my guys just to stand here with a torch or the saw and go through it? And at the end of the day, I was like, I think I can I'm never going to replace my guys, right? I'm not going to take those 3 people that the Voortman can take out and just lay them off. I just wanted to grow the business. And so that was the reason I did it. It was just, what could I do? What do I pay my guys versus how much more can I get out of it? And to me, it was a no-brainer. Now I know they're obviously more expensive nowadays, and interest rates are higher, so it's a little bit of a tougher choice. But I also realize I can't compete as a small shop against the big shops if I don't have automation.
Yeah. Because
the guys that are doing everything's a per ton price, right? That's what I learned in this. Like, what's your cost per ton or what's your cost per pound? And we weren't competitive until we put something in there to make us competitive.
Yeah. Did you use any kind of formula like that you for ROI that you wanted to see? I know you had a lot of background in that, but are you looking for, hey, I can get a 3-year ROI on this, or I can get this kind of return on capital, and how
Sure.
you're going about calculating that?
Yeah. So what I looked at it is I said, can I make the monthly payment? Right. That was the first thing. Because I had already just put so much, I did what you typically do. I put so much debt on the company. So I had to first say, can I even absorb this additional debt? Right. Because I knew what my debt was after buying Carolina Metals. And could I keep my debt where I could obviously make both? And for a while it was difficult because what happened in 2020. But for me, the return on investment, you got to look at a 3 year to 5 year payback, because I was the owner, right? So typically when you look at private equity, they go, I want a 2 year payback. But when you're the owner, you can say, well, I want a 3 year payback. I want a 5 year payback, because I knew I was going to sell Carolina Metals, and I'm okay buying something and getting my payback, just making the note, increasing the business and going from there. So I looked at it, and mine was a 3 year return, and it didn't yield a 3 year return just because of what was happening, but it's been a great investment. And what I really enjoyed is I bought a shop. It was clean, but it wasn't as clean as it could be. It was like we 5S the shop. My guys learned what lean meant.
Yeah.
They learned what the 5S. So everything has a place. So you come into my shop, my welding machines have a place, the brooms have a place, and I wanted to reward them, because you never know what the employees think, right? Here's a guy that just bought a company, just bought us, right? They're 5, 6, 8 year, tenured employees. Now, if we're putting machinery in, they realize I'm in it for the long run, right?
Yeah.
I'm not pulling machinery out. I'm not selling everything in the shop. They know that they have, and it's a great selling point. And frankly, when COVID hit, and after COVID, even in 2021, it was a great marketing tool, right?
Yeah.
I could take video of it, and sparks are flying everywhere, and people are like, that's really cool. And so it's been a great marketing tool for us. The problem now is everybody has one. So it's not really a marketing tool, and a lot of guys in North Carolina have one. So all my competition, and what I do say is, my competition is always allowed in my shop. If they call up, anyone wants to come into my shop, they're more than welcome to, because my thoughts are like, before I bought Carolina Metals and right after I went into their shops, and they said, Jeff, here's what we do. And anybody who wants to buy a fabrication company or start one, go to somebody else's shop. Go see what they do right, go see what they do wrong, because that was a huge impact.
Yeah.
Because I created some network, but I also created it to see hey, I really like this, and I really don't like this.
Yeah. I echo that very loudly. When we started our powder coating shop, I joined PCI. It's like Powder Coat Institute, I think. But it's similar to some of the fabrication organizations. But anyways, I went to their annual meeting. I think it was in Vegas. I show up, and I don't even have a powder coat shop yet. I was wanting to build one. And I thought these guys were going to laugh me out of the room. They invite me to their round table, and we talk, and like 3 of them are like, oh, come out and see me. Yeah, come out. So I put some dates on the books, and I went to visit a couple of them and showed me their facility. I made notes on how to lay everything out, and we came back and we built it. And one of them turned into a long-term friendship. We invited them down to visit us and so forth. So yeah, that's definitely the way to go if you're thinking about getting into it.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, I was watching something yesterday, and they said your competition should be your enemy, and I don't believe that. I don't believe my competition is my enemy. I truly believe that there's more than enough pie that we can all eat, and we can ultimately all help each other in the long run. So I'd rather, if all of a sudden the fabricators in North Carolina all have automation, well, that means more companies are going to come here, because they see, look at all these fabricators, look what they're doing. And all of a sudden, our state becomes a better, it gets renowned for, look at all these guys, look at all this innovation that's happening. So
yeah, or take it to the next level, the United States becomes competitive, and we don't need to outsource it overseas. I mean, you can even go up a rung, and the same principle applies, I think. And so,
yeah, absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, good stuff. So, you got any other questions, Casey?
No, I mean, I don't have anything. I have like my last one that I'd like to wrap up.
One too, but I wanted.
You ask yours, and then I'll see if mine fits in there.
Well, I just always like to ask a lot of our guests, particularly ones in our industry, but like what's keeping you up at night, and then what are you most excited about?
Sure. So what keeps me up at night is like where's our industry going, right? So, and when I say that is, you hear a lot about onshoring, right? You hear about a lot of people coming back in. We're seeing some of that. What you hear and what actually is happening is two different things. I don't think we're seeing as much onshoring as the media is telling us we're seeing. So that kind of keeps me up at night. Interest rates, obviously, keep me up at night. We took our SBA loan and jumped it to commercial note when it's fixed. But when you're a small business owner and you're in an SBA note, your interest rates fluctuate based off what prime is. So interest rates keep me up at night. And frankly, it's just, the overall economy. But then I realized I used to just lay awake and think, what's the economy going to do? And now I go, you know what, whatever it's going to do, I just have to adjust and perform.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. So what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited about what's coming online, right? Like I see all this cobalt. I see all these, these robots coming online for welding, automatic welders. And I'm not talking about the big welders that everybody has, because I can't afford one of those. And frankly, my shop is too small. I love the idea of cobalt welders. I love the idea of, they're now doing stuff with aluminum welding machines. And it's like, if you can do that, you literally can take a guy right out of school, and he's not a welder, he's an operator. And what's really kind of nice about that is, not that I'm not going to pay him welder pay, but I'm not worried about what the weld's going to look like, because the robot does it. And I just think
and you're
automation-
increasing your output. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
We actually just piloted our first cobot welding
Okay.
machine.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about it. Like, we can talk about that offline, but I think that's the next wave of the future. I mean, now they're literally putting them on beams and they're running them across shops. There's just some really automated opportunities.
Yeah.
I would like to see more AI get
Yeah,
involved.
That's exactly what I was
like-
getting ready to say. AI for estimating. I don't know about you, but
Game changer.
estimating is such a bog, especially when you're doing the kind of work that we are doing. And I mean, you can have a 10-20% win rate on a lot of that stuff. I mean, just the volume that you're bidding. I mean, if 10 shops are bidding on a job, I mean, only 1 out of 10 is going to get it. So I think AI for estimating is going to be huge. If you
I
don't
agree.
embrace
I know-
it, you're going to get left behind.
I know there's some outlets out, there's some companies out there. We talked to a few because there are for structural AI starting to do the structural side because we are so custom. We'll talk about different weld plates and everything else, and the AI can't figure it out. But I truly think in the next couple of years, you're going to be essentially able to take Bluebeam, take your drawings, throw it in Bluebeam,
Yep.
and somebody's going to be like, "Here you go."
Oh, there's
It's
no
gonna be-
reason why we can't. I mean, we're running so we're estimating in FabSuite, right? Or it used to be called FabSuite. It's Tekla now, right? We're estimating in that. It's a very commonly used platform in the structural industry. But we have built out all the parametrics. The previous owner we bought the shop from had put most of it in there, and you continue to tweak it. But that's basically the learning model for AI. I mean, we've put all the parametrics in that basically says if you have this connection, it takes this many bolts, this much weld time, this much coping time, yada, yada, yada. And there's no reason why you can't teach a visual AI model to say, look at that. And if it sees that, it's this, this, and this. I agree with you. I can't imagine that that's very far away, that you feed a drawing in and based on the info, you have to give it the learning information, but that it's going to give that back to you.
And I don't think AI is going to take their jobs, right? It's not going to take the job of my estimator. It's not going to take the job of my project manager. It's going to get us right all the time, right? So you guys have all been there, right? The estimator may do something and miss, X, Y, and Z. Well, that just goes away. Or in the fact of AI, if AI misses it, the estimator is still going to go through the drawings, right? So I'm not going to solely rely on AI. I don't solely rely on AI to write social media outputs, outputs. But
Yeah.
I just think it's got to be that game changer for all of us. And we also, Matthew, use Tekla, and it's a great system for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Casey's
But
using.
but by God, does it take forever to do an estimate some days?
Yeah. Casey's using AI for some really cool stuff. Maybe just share. I mean, we may have talked about this on the podcast before, but just even how you're using it for the podcast and some of the outputs.
Which so many people are using it already, but there's so much AI out there that when we first launched this podcast a year ago or so, we were doing all the little short social clips by hand, and there was AI, but it wasn't very good. And it has increased so well that in the last 2 or 3 months, we've implemented where we just feed the whole episode in there, and it will split out these little short clips for us that, and it'll give us scores on like how well it thinks it's going to do on social media, and it'll give you like 20 of them, and we only use like 5 of them or whatever. But it's really nice to have those. And I know Miranda for you guys is doing it too internally with one of her. Like she's a whole different software, but doing the same thing. So
it auto generates your captions, and then there's something else like you can teach it to look for. Like if we would say Mason, edit this, it'll look for that, and it automatically cuts to that part of the episode so that he knows what to edit.
Yeah, for us, like I'm still waiting for like brand asset management software to be able to use AI to where if you have user generated content, you have team members generated content, you can upload it to there. It scans it visually and our audio, and it will automatically tag it with tags that are searchable. And if you say, okay, I need to show a testimonial of someone using this product that's talking about this, and then it gives you the time codes. Like that's what I'm waiting for to happen. If that don't happen, I'm going to have to figure out how to create it, because it'd be such a game changer to be able to produce all the content.
That could be a new business for all of us guys. Just go ahead, you create it. Matthew and I will invest in it.
Well, Matthew knows. I've been talking about it for like a year now. Like that, we need something like that. So for how many clients do like content. So,
what was your last question?
Mine was just, our listeners are obviously leaders, just like you, like own probably in the same like age of owning businesses as you. And I think people can just learn from like people that are in it and doing it. What would be like just one tip? Like if someone, whether they're like you were in 2019 thinking about buying a business or starting a business, or they're in the thick of it right now and they're just like, maybe they're overwhelmed. I don't know. What would be something that you would give them that they could have an actionable tip?
Sure. So if you're looking at buying a business, or you're looking at buying a fabrication business, the number one tip to me is find a really good banker. Right, because the banker will help you get the SBA note. The banker will help you sort out anything you need. We've gone through a number of bankers, and I would say, you're buying a business, find a really good banker, get a good relationship, because he'll be able to put you on other deals as well. If you're in the throes of owning a fabrication business in 2019, you've already bought it, you're 6 months into it, like I was. The biggest tip there is just know your numbers. Right? Like there's so many people that and understand revenue is vanity. Profit is why you come to play the game. And people think revenue is, I'm doing 30 million, I'm doing 40 million. And at the end of the day, you're like, but what are you making? And they go, well, I'm only making this. You're like, that's why revenue is vanity. And I think we get caught up, especially when you buy a business. I was the same way. I got caught up in the revenue game rather than going, well, hence why I bought the Machiner, the Vortman, and the Dragon. Yeah, but profit is what's going to pay my bills, and a lot of people forget about that. And then I think if you're 5 years in, and you're like, what, as an owner, my tip there is enjoy it, right? Like I'm just learning to enjoy what I have, because it's such a grind, and there's a lot of times you pick your head up. And you're like, wow, look what we've accomplished.
Yeah.
But you never realize what you accomplished until you look in the past and go, look at all this great stuff. Like we're employing people, we're paying benefits, we're doing charitable events. And if you're in the throes of it, you never lift your head up. You'll never understand all the good that you've done. And I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of owners, where they grind every day and they forget. They're like, hey, we're doing something really cool. We're employing people. And it's scary. Matthew asked what keeps me at night. Sometimes it's just my employees keep me up at night. But it's a really cool thing that you've created this huge business. You're employing people. People come to work because they trust you. And we don't think of it like that some days. And I think it's unfortunate, because as owners we should revel in, some of the good that we do.
Yeah, despite all the challenges, it's an awesome opportunity. That's the way I put it. Every day is an awesome opportunity.
Right.
Hey, he's only owned a business for like a year longer than me. He seems to be making a lot more money than me. What's going on here, Matthew?
Well, maybe you need to get in the fabrication business. If you want to go buy a fab shop, I'll help you do that, Casey. But something tells me you need to stick to producing videos. And listen, Jeff, if we could have his kind of margin, we would be loving life.
That's right.
We might move more volume, but I like Casey's margins.
Yeah. So Matt, I always laugh because like I'm part of this group called EO. So it's a bunch of business owners, and there's criteria. And you look around the room and you got a lot of blue collar guys like myself, and people are like, and you got a lot of tech guys that are same thing. They're like, I'm going to take my business from 10 million to like 100 million. We're going to do SAS and all this stuff I don't even understand. And they're like, what about you? I'm like, I'm hoping for like a 5%, 10% increase every year because it's just so asset heavy. And but again, it's that whole play where you think everybody can run revenue, but at the end of the day, it's about the profit. It's about just getting up in the morning, looking around, going, I'm doing something right. And every day I wake up and I think, I'm doing something right. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy employing people. I enjoy my team. My team's doing great. So every day every day I'm not like excited, but every day I kind of just go, I'm doing the right things. And as long as you do the right things, you're always going to be good.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we got today. That was a great conversation. Really appreciate you joining us, and look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the invite. I hope you can cut some of the long-winded explanations I have and the nervous energy I showed at the beginning. But Casey, I know you're going to do great with AI to take care of that.
That's right.
Well, we're
not going to do it. The computer's going to do it.
We do minimal editing, and I'm sorry to tell you, I didn't see anything that I felt like needed to be edited. I think it was all just fine.
We probably didn't mess up nearly as much in this one as we normally do.
I think it's all just fine. But you're welcome to Indiana anytime, Jeff. And if I get down in your neck of the woods, I'll holler at you.
Yeah, we need to do something together. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much for inviting me on.
Casey, you want to close us out here?
You just want me to say, if you're not making sparks, you're what?
You're not making money, man.
All right, yeah.
Jeff knows this. If that Vortman's not making sparks, you're not making money.
If that Vortman's not running, I just shake my head and walk away.
Yeah,
I love it, guys.
To our audience, just remember to rate it, review it, share it with friends. If you like what you heard, be like Jeff. Share it on LinkedIn, please, and let's build this movement around the metalworking nation.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks again, guys.
All right, have a great day.
Do the same.